Welcome to Talking Buffalo, featuring conversations with guests from around the world of sports, media, pop culture, and all things Buffalo. With your host, Patrick Moran.
A full Buffalo Bills Tennessee Titans preview, some bold predictions, which, by the way, I nailed every one of them last week. Keys to the game for the Bills. And oh, yeah, by the way, the Buffalo Sabres are absolute trash. All that coming up right now on Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Big thank you to everyone out there, as always, for watching and for listening, for following and subscribing. I do appreciate y'all very, very, very much. This is our Friday episode. If you happen to be watching this right now, we are streaming this live late on a Thursday night, like 10 p.m. on a Thursday night. We're going to talk primarily Bills today. Thank God. Bills, Titans, the Buffalo Bills return home after 3 straight road games. Like I said, we'll kind of take a look at both teams, preview this game, go over some keys, some bold predictions, have a little bit of fun with that. I got to ask you for a favor, though, right off the bat here. You got to indulge me for 4 to 6, 7 minutes tops here at the top. And I want to get this shit over with before we can get into the fun stuff. This is, as much as I wish sometimes this was Talking Buffalo Bills, this is Talking Buffalo, and it is kind of like my responsibility to talk Buffalo sports. The Sabres are in season. I need to talk about them. If you're watching this live on the video side, unfortunately, you're stuck for the next handful of minutes. If you're watching or listening to this regularly on demand, whether it's on the audio side, the video side, whatever, hit fast forward, do yourself a favor, go like 4 or 5 minutes or so forward, and then you can enjoy the rest of this podcast. But I got to talk about the Sabres, a team that is quite literally already, when it comes to my sports viewing, is sucking the life completely out of me, utterly right now. Again, we're live here on a late Thursday night. The Sabres have just lost on the road to the Columbus Blue Jackets, 6-4, a night after losing, in overtime Wednesday night in Pittsburgh. They've scored 5 goals and 4 goals in their last 2 games, and they've only mustered 1 point. Just going to get right to it, man. The Buffalo Sabres are just they're a disaster. They're a pile of shit already. That's exactly what they are. 7 games in, 1-4-1. I was right the first time, 6 games. I'm so pissed off. I can't even think right now. 12 goals allowed in the last 2 games. I guess the good part is UPL and Devin Levi are like kind of sucking equally. So that's good news. I got to tell you though, so what pissed me off about this team, maybe more than the game, literally right before I came on the air, I caught just a couple minutes of locker room talk. And the captain, Rasmus Dahlin, is speaking to the media after the game. And I don't know, he was asked what's going wrong, something very, generic in general, which was a very fair question. What the hell is up with this hockey team? You're supposed to be a good team this year and you suck. And Rasmus Dahlin could have said one of a million things I would have bought into. He could have said, well, you know what? We're just inconsistent. We're making too many mistakes, too many turnovers, which nobody knows more than Rasmus Dahlin the way he's turning that puck over, including a back-breaking turnover to start the third period in this game here on Thursday night. Could have said that. We're not finishing plays. We can't score on the power play, which, by the way, if he said that, he would quite literally be telling the truth, because they have not scored a goal on the power play this entire season. 0 for 17, 0 for 18, whatever the hell it is. Who gives a shit? He could have said any of that stuff, and I would have been like, all right, I get it. He's the captain. Things ain't going right. You got to stand up there and you got to say what you got to say. But you know what pissed me off about Rasmus Dahlin more than his on-ice performance in this game, or for this season for that matter? He said, and I'm barely paraphrasing, but he said, we're not hungry enough. That's what he said. We're not hungry enough right now. I'm like, God, I can understand not executing. I can understand bad penalties. Again, the power play, you could come up with a different things. But to say we're not hungry enough? Has 13 years of a drought not been enough? Does that not make you hungry if nothing else? Oh my God. I could not believe that I was hearing that with my own eyes. I couldn't believe it. We're not hungry enough is what Rasmus Dahlin said after the game. Literally pissed me off. Literally pissed me off. And I'm not even like, no hyperbole here at all. I'm befuddled right now. I can barely even talk. I'm so pissed off at this team. And I'm mad at, you know what? You know who I'm more mad at than the Sabres? I'm mad at myself. Because I have sat here now for back-to-back nights. Like, I don't want to say like many of you, because I know primarily this is a Buffalo Bills fan listen to and watch podcast, but I know plenty of you out there are Bills and Sabres fans. It's early in the season. You had some form of optimism with this team. So I'm probably not alone, but I have spent Wednesday and Thursday night now watching every second of this hockey team, and it pisses me off. It sucks the life out of me as a sports fan. It really does. And we're going to talk Bills. Thank God we're going to be talking Buffalo Bills here in just a minute. But this clusterfuck of a team is just unbelievable. We're not hungry enough. What are we doing here? You're not hungry enough. I mean, Jesus. And you know what about this team too? And I'm realizing it right now, and we're 2 weeks into the season? Not even. At the end of the day, maybe it wasn't the coaching. You know, maybe it wasn't Don Granato. I thought it was Don Granato. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it wasn't that the bottom six sucked. And they improved the bottom six. That's all they did literally is improve the bottom six. I mean, that third line right now, that line of McLeod, Zucker, and Greenway far and away has been their most consistent line this season. But still, maybe that wasn't the problem, that, you know, the bottom six sucked. I think it's time to look in the mirror. At least I know I am right now. I've written out every excuse you possibly can. But at this point, if you're a Sabres fan, or God forbid you're Kevin Adams right now, this core is not good enough. That's what it comes down to. It's their core. The core of this hockey team is just not good enough. That's on Kevin Adams. For Bills fans here who barely watch the Sabres, you know, there's two players on this team. One guy who's supposed to be an established star who's paid like one, and then like one rising star who, I don't know if these are the best comps, but I want to kind of give you like two Sabres Bills comps that I fished out earlier. Like with Dylan Cousins right now, who, by the way, again, 6 games into the season, your second line center who's all over the ice, who's on power plays, who's on the penalty kill. He doesn't have a point this year, not a point. I remember all the offseason talk this past offseason. I remember I'm so fired up right now. Chris Baker, Matthew Fairburn. I remember doing a live show in Imperial and listening to both those guys who are great hockey guys, by the way, but they're talking about Dylan Cousins. Time for him to step up. I see him being the leader. He's got so much potential. He's got captain potential. Yeah, well, how about you get a freaking assist at some point by accident? Have a goal go off your goddamn helmet or something. Do something offensively. Dylan Cousins, to me, is Dawson Knox or maybe Marcel Darius. Like, did some really good things early on, got a really nice contract, and is just as mid as it gets. Doesn't it kind of feel like that's what Dawson Knox is right now? Like, Dawson Knox played well early in his career, 2 good years, got a big contract, and now he's just a guy. Now, in the case of the Bills, that's all he needs to do is be just a guy because they got a better tight end and they got lots of weapons. The Sabres ain't got that. Dylan Cousins needs to be more than just a guy. He's getting paid like someone who's supposed to be a star, a core player, a nucleus of this team. $7.1 million for the next 6 years. And he's done jack shit. And speaking of Jack Quinn is literally watching the game in the press box. Literally in the press box. He's been benched already. That's how terrible he's been. Both second-line guys, both top 6 guys. It's ridiculous, man. Owen Power, Dahlin, who I just talked about, they've been fine, I guess. But fine ain't good enough. When you're supposed to be like the backbone of this team, just being fine is not even close to good enough. I mean, dude, we're 2 weeks, still 2 full weeks. As we're streaming this right now, it is what, October 17th. Literally, we're still 2 weeks out from Halloween. Forget St. Patrick's Day. Forget Valentine's Day. Even forget New Year's Day or Christmas or even Thanksgiving. We're 2 weeks out from Halloween. And I spent a good chunk of the second period going on Google and looking up fucking mock drafts for next year already. Like, who are the Sabres going to tank for? Now, they're not going to tank, but who are they going to hopefully finish close enough near the bottom for that they'll be in play? Which, by the way, it's Jack Higgins. Apparently, that's the dude who's the top prospect. But I'm looking at mock drafts for next year and who the top prospects are for next year on a Thursday night on October 17th. Like, seriously, this entire organization could go to hell. That's how I feel about this team right now. And I'm being honest with you. I don't give a shit anymore. I'm out, at least emotionally after this, because I'm obviously got a lot going on right now, but I'm out. I am going to treat this team, the Bills, you're going to get the best of me. You're going to get the worst of me. You're going to get my emotions. You're going to get the highs of highs. You're going to get the lows of lows with me when it comes to the Buffalo Bills on this show. When it comes to the Sabres going forward after this, I don't give a shit anymore. I am going to cover them like I was covering the Columbus Blue Jackets. I don't give a shit if they win or lose. I will treat them as if I'm covering a team professionally, and I will talk about them. Actually, I'm not even going to talk about them. I'll fake my way through it, and I'm going to go back to getting my hockey guests on the show. If there's going to be Sabres talk on the show, you're going to hear from Joe Yerdon. You're going to hear from Chad DeDominicis. You're going to hear from Mike Carrington. Hell, I got a good buddy of mine at work. My boy, his name's LP. Shout out LP. He's been joking with me now for months saying, hey, after Sabres games, give me 60 seconds. If they win, I'll talk them up. If they lose, I'm going to shoot on them, to use a wrestling term. He's going to rant on them. Guess what, buddy? It's all yours. If I got a Sabres-themed episode, you could have the whole freaking episode. I don't want to be on it. I don't want to talk about this team unless I absolutely have to. I'm out on them. And again, I will talk about them only wins or losses with the guests professionally. Can't even score one power play goal. All I kept hearing about was how the power play needs to be fixed. And last year was the system, the coaches. No, it wasn't, because they can't score this year either. A new coach, new power play, new pieces, or at least to some extent. And it's the same ass old bullshit. I love to hear what Terry Pegula feels about this. But that shit ain't going to happen. He ain't saying shit. He never does, and he never will. From the Bills side, I don't care. Bills are a good team. I like hearing from Brandon Beane. I get everything I need from Brandon Beane. I don't need to hear from Terry. But I want to hear from the owner, this tire fire. What are we doing here? $8 million you still got in gas space, by the way. And I was one of those jerk-off idiots who was kind of defending this team. I said, hey, it's good to have that cap space, because you know what? If you're in a playoff race, come deadline time, and you want to be a buyer, you got a lot of money to take on a nice contract. What the hell was I thinking? This team's going to be buried. They're going to be buried. They got to play right now, like a 99-point pace for the rest of the season just to get to 94, 95 points, which might not even get them in the playoffs anyway. We're not hungry enough. We're not hungry enough. 13 straight years, going on 14, the longest drought, tied with the Jets in all professional sports, and we're not hungry enough right now. Get the hell out of here. What a bunch of bullshit Buffalo Sabres are. And the Yankees lost 2 tonight. Blew it 1 out away from going up 3-0, so I am in a shit mood. All right, now I got to go post myself here. By the way, I'm by myself, so I do apologize. If you're leaving comments, I'll try to post them all up near the end at some point. I get to 1 or 2, but I apologize that I won't be able to keep up with it. I kind of want to stay on schedule here and not go off track, and most importantly, not make this too long of an episode. Well, at least I get to know that I'm not the only one here. If you're on the video side, you're seeing in the chat plenty of people not too happy with the Buffalo Sabres, nor should you be. Let's switch gears, though. Let's talk Bills here. Bills, Titans, some actual news. Buffalo Bills news, I should say, on Thursday. They signed a kicker, sort of. To the practice squad anyway. Lucas Havlicek gets signed to the practice squad. Thad Brown tweeted this. I wanted to share this with you. If you're looking for some numbers and some information on him, Havlicek went 15 of 20 on field goals in a half season for the Rams last year, but he missed 4 of 6 from 40 to 49 yards. 8 of his makes of those 15 were inside 30 yards. Like, quite literally, that's a chip shot at that point. And he also missed 3 out of 22 PATs. So, if you're looking at this as a potential upgrade from Tyler Bass, I would say you probably need to look again, because it's certainly, I mean, maybe he finds another gear now. It's a second chance. Well, he's been bouncing around a couple teams now for a few years. But that's what he did with the Rams in a half season last year. At this point, if you're a free agent, you're a free agent for a reason. He's not an upgrade, and I hate the signing. Let me give you an unpopular opinion on this real quick. I didn't like the move. Now, some people will disagree with my logic, and I completely understand. But for me, it was Tyler Bass either needs to continue to be shown confidence from the staff, even if he doesn't deserve it. Tyler Bass needs to be shown confidence from the staff. And you could just tell from Monday night with Sean McDermott, and he's not wrong. Brady Bean said straight up they were going to be trying out kickers. He said that on the Pat McAfee show, I believe, on Tuesday. They're not wrong. But you either need to continue to show confidence in this guy or show him the door. And I know that's easier said than done. I know he's got a contract. You got to eat dead cap money. I get all that. I do. I understand that. But to me, it needs to be one or the other. And again, I don't even feel like this guy would be an upgrade anyway. But my mindset is this. The problem with Tyler Bass right now is not that his leg's not strong enough. He can make kicks from 55, 58 yards. He has it in him. We've seen it. The problem with Tyler Bass right now, he is just completely shot. Your boy is shot mentally. He doesn't look like he's confident when he's kicking the ball. The staff isn't confident. And I know you watching the games at home, you're not confident either. Especially if it's from beyond 40 yards. I mean, he's 2 for 5 from 40 to 49 yards this year. That's not good enough. It's not even close to good enough. So cut him or show confidence in him. And I say that because if you think he lack confidence right now and he's got the yips right now, I've heard that a couple times, which could be true. If he's lacking confidence, now he's got a guy that he knows is on the practice squad hovering over his shoulder. He's going to go out there. Oh, shit, if I miss his kick, this time they might actually cut me. I don't know if that's going to wreck his confidence further, or I could be wrong. Maybe that makes him realize that, hey, playtime's over with, as far as Sean McDermott and Brandon Bean are concerned. They're going to be done with me if I don't make these kicks. So maybe that kicks it up a gear where maybe the pressure, the bigger pressure will help him. I just don't see it happening. I think pressure last year in the Kansas City game in the playoffs, and he choked. And he's missed, not only is he missing, I mean, the kicks that he misses look really bad. It's like they don't even have a chance. Greg Zuerlein had a rough game for the Jets, but at least he had 2 kicks go off the goalpost. I mean, Tyler Bass is missing by 5, 10, 15, 20 yards. Not even close. But anyway, this news, the Bills do sign a kicker to the practice squad. Certainly some to monitor. Nothing's going to happen, I don't think, anyway, before this Sunday. But like I said, certainly newsworthy. On the injury front, really good news for the Bills. On Thursday, Daquan Jones was the only one who didn't practice. More of a veteran rest day for him. And technically, he's got a foot thing, but he's fine. It was just more of a rest day. Some guys in red non-contact jerseys, Bernard, Teron Johnson, but I'm sure that's just, they don't need any physicality during the week. They're still, just getting back. Matt Collins was in a red non-contact jersey, and so was Dalton Kincaid. He's got a collarbone issue. But they all practiced. He's on a limited basis. Good news, really good news. Ed Oliver and James Cook, full participation in practice. That's good. Khalil Shakir, full participation in practice. That's really good. Also, for the first time since week 1, no left hand glove for Josh Allen. So that hand, whatever hand injury, finger injury, knuckle injury, whatever it may have been, for Josh Allen, it must be completely healed at this point because he was back on the practice field on Thursday for the first time with no glove. I got to read a comment right here. John Sanders set a 7 to the Browns for Dustin Hopkins since they're selling. You know what? That's a really good point. I don't know about him specifically, and I'm not going to get into, at least on today's show, I'm not going to get into specific kickers because I don't know what their contract situations are looking like. But I will say we was on the show with Joe 2 days ago. I said something along those lines. I said, there's no good kickers out there right now. Like the kicker the Bills just signed, I don't think he's a good kicker. But maybe Brandon Beane makes a trade. Go find a team that sucks, that's going nowhere, that's got a kicker who might be, a reasonable contract, and maybe it's the last year of his contract, and you give a 5th or a 6th round pick, and you get him for the rest of the season. Hell, man, a kicker might be the difference between winning and losing a game. So if I can get a clear-cut upgrade from Tyler Bass and give up a 5th or 6th round pick to do it, I'm doing it. Anyway, injuries, back to the injury thing. One thing to note, Ray Davis was limited at practice on Thursday with hamstring. So that's new. But all in all, I'll tell you what, this is the healthiest the Buffalo Bills have been since week 1 of the season. Obviously, that's really good news. You look at everyone on this roster, of course, Matt Milano, who's on IR, he won't be back this week or for a while. But assuming that Ray Davis's injury isn't much, there's a good chance that any inactives on Sunday are going to be coaching decisions, healthy scratches, as opposed to guys who are hurt. So that's really good. Before we get to a quick break here, just a couple of Bills things that I wanted to hit on. It may not feel like it right now because it doesn't look effortless and easy, and the numbers aren't piling up. But right now, the Bills are actually 3rd offensively in the NFL in DVOA. They're also 3rd in EPA per play. Only Washington and Baltimore have been better. Josh Allen, his yards, his touchdowns, they look very mid, very ordinary. By his standards, not good. But it's crazy because he's been great by every advanced metric pretty much out there. And admittedly, I have little to no understanding of what a lot of those are at this point. The days in football of being able to say, this guy threw for X amount of yards and he's completed this amount of pass or percentage of passes, or even what his quarterback general rating is. That's how we used to be able to judge quarterbacks. It's so much further beyond that now, just like in hockey. It used to be goals, assists, points, shots on goal, plus minus. Those were your stats. Those stats don't even mean much. Now it's all about EPA, expected goals above or below, whatever have you, just a million different things. It's like you need to go to college to understand a lot of those. But again, by the metrics, Josh Allen's been great. He is the top. He's got the highest score of any quarterback in the NFL right now on Next Gen Stats. Their score, whatever formula they use, he's got a 96 score. That's one ahead of Jaden Daniels. He's a little bit ahead of Sam Purdy, and he's a little bit ahead of Sam Darnold, who has really revitalized his career with Minnesota. So you love to see that. He's also 2nd in EPA dropbacks, whatever the hell that means. Only Daniels from Washington has a higher score there. So Josh, what I'm basically telling you is, minus the Houston game where Josh Allen sucked, he's played damn well, even if the passing yards and some of the other stuff doesn't indicate that. He's played really well. Getting Khalil Shakir back and closer to 100% while Amari Cooper ramps up is going to be really nice as well. Khalil Shakir's got a 95.24 catch percentage rate, which is the best in the entire NFL this year. He's had 21 targets, and he's caught the ball 20 times. He's 7th in expected yards after catch per reception in the NFL. So Khalil Shakir obviously is very valuable to this team. One thing I noticed too when I was going over some of the EPA, the advanced stat stuffs, teams are really trying to take away right now the Bills' running game. They're stacking the lines. James Cook and Ray Davis, both of them are in the top 10 right now in the NFL in percentage of carries where the defense has at least 8 guys in the box. So clearly defenses are bringing more guys into the box. They're playing more man-to-man. trying to bring pressure on Josh Allen and trying to make the Bills be quick with their decision-making to beat them. Yet another scenario where maybe not this week, but I think Amari Cooper is really going to help the Buffalo Bills offense, which, again, it ain't that bad, man. It's third in the league right now in DVOA. On the defensive side, they're starting to get better efforts from, I think, Daquan Jones. I think he's been good the last 2 weeks. A.J. Epinesa really stepped up in New Jersey on Monday night against the Jets. 2 sacks, big sacks too, although one of them got wiped out by a bullshit penalty. But nonetheless, A.J. Epinesa is starting to turn it around. And I think you're really seeing the difference back-to-back weeks now between depth and star players. You know, you could be a good quality depth player, but when you're a star player and you're coming back, you're going to see a discernible difference. Case in point, Braylon Spector. Braylon Spector's been all right. He's not bad. He's good depth. You know, you want a Braylon Spector on your roster, a guy, if he's got to come in for a couple series, or he's got to start a couple games even, or a game and a half, whatever it may be, you got to hope he's not going to kill you. I think he's at that level. But Terrell Bernard being back, we saw immediate dividends in Houston. He had an interception, he had a big 4th inch stop. That's the difference between Terrell Bernard and Braylon Spector. This week in New York, you saw the difference between Cam Lewis and Teron Johnson. Cam Lewis is a pretty quality depth player, a really versatile guy. You could plug him in at a couple different spots, but he ain't Teron Johnson. You know, Stephon Diggs and a couple other receivers in the slot have been carving him up the last couple weeks. Well, Teron Johnson came back, and you saw the difference. First of all, you saw the difference in the run defense. I mean, this guy is the best run defending slot corner in the NFL, period. He is. And he also, again, a little rusty in pass defense, but all the chips are on the table. He makes the interception to basically seal the game off Aaron Rodgers. So I think you're really seeing a difference in the Bills' defense with Johnson and Bernard both back. And hopefully, the way it's trending, Ed Oliver will be back. And Dwayne Carter, who played good against Houston, kind of absent against the Jets. Again, good depth player and a rookie, but he's not Ed Oliver. So it's important to get these guys back. Christian Benford, who I think has been one of the best corners in the NFL, I still do think that, had his first subpar game Monday night against the Jets. He got tagged pretty well. Garrett Wilson primarily. Gave up seven catches for 81 yards and a touchdown. It's funny because coming into that game, he only gave up 6 catches for 29 yards in the first 5 games combined, which to me is just absolutely ludicrous. So that's what's going on with the Bills. I'm going to take a real quick break, come back, tell you what's going on with the Titans. Then, like I said, a couple keys of the game, bowl predictions, and we'll get you out of here. All right, we are back here. I am live on the video side late on a Thursday night. Friday podcast drop for everybody else. Again, I apologize. I'm trying to get through some of these comments right now. I just, quite frankly, I can't keep up with when I'm solo. When I have a guest and they're talking, I usually have a good opportunity to go through the comments and get more of them up on the screen. But I do appreciate everybody who is live right now and taking the time to comment. They will show up on the YouTube side afterwards anyway. All right, Tennessee Titans. I'm going to tell you this right now. The Tennessee Titans they're only 1-4, all right? And that is not going to scare anybody. Record-wise, that's lousy. For all intents and purposes, 5 or 6 weeks into the season, 5 games for them. They're kind of buried right now. But don't let that record fool you too much. Because the Tennessee Titans might only have 1 win this season, but they're not that bad of a team. Overall, quite frankly, I think they are a respectable team at worst, a pretty good team at best, especially on defense. In fact, they come into this game ranked number 1 in the NFL right now in defense. They're allowing just 248.8 yards per game. They're also number 1 in the NFL in pass defense. They're only allowing 137 passing yards per game. They're 9th in run defense, 111.8 yards per game. They have the 4th best red zone defense, and they have the 5th best third down defense. So this is a defense that pretty much across the board has been good, really good. If you want to go to advanced stats, they're sixth in EPA right now. They're fifth in rush EPA. They're the best in the NFL in drop back pass EPA. So again, statistically on the defensive end, across the board, this is a good defense. Certainly a defense that appears to be good enough that their football team should not be 1-4 and on the verge of becoming major trade deadline sellers. That's pretty much what they are. They're led on defense. Jeffrey Simmons, man, he's a great defensive tackle. No disrespect to Ed, although I do disrespect Ed plenty. But Jeffrey Simmons is like what I wish Ed Oliver was. They got a really good rookie, too. Devontae Sweat, 70.2 PFF grade at DT. A huge mammoth of a guy, a lane clogger, a run stopper. Maybe one of the few defensive tackles in the league where if you line up for third or fourth in inches and you do, the Josh Allen tush push or the Orchard Park shove, whatever they call that shit, there's no guarantee you're getting that on him. That's how big of a man he is. Unfortunately for the Titans, perhaps fortunately for the Bills, he's hurt. Did not practice on Thursday. I think it's a knee injury. Don't know his status for the game as of yet. We'll probably find that out sometime on Friday. But that would be a big blow to the Titans defense if he can't go. When it comes to getting to the quarterback, the Titans have not been good. They only got 9 sacks of the season. Harold Landry III is definitely somebody the Bills will have to keep very close tabs on because he's got 4 of those 9 sacks that the Titans have this year. Kind of meh at linebacker, to be honest. Kenneth Murray Jr. is not really, I've not been impressed with him from what I've seen. I looked it up. He's got the 5th lowest PFF grade of any eligible linebacker in the league right now. Ernest Jones, not great, but he's a good, solid uphill type linebacker who can do some things. On the secondary, it's what, Janarius Sneed was with the Chiefs, like lockdown city. Like he took guys off the stat sheet, literally. He might have been the best corner. I know Sauce Gardner gets all the love, but Janarius Sneed with the Chiefs might have been the best corner in the NFL last year. The Titans traded for him. The Chiefs couldn't pay him. They wanted to pay Chris Jones instead. They couldn't pay him both. Anyway, he's kind of been a disaster for the Titans this year. I mean, like a big disaster. And furthermore, he's hurt. He did not practice on Wednesday or Thursday, not even limited. He a complete not practice DNP. So there's a good chance he's not playing on Sunday. And despite the fact he has been a disaster with the Titans so far this year, maybe that's got something to do with the defense that they're playing, what's being asked of him, things like that. But I know this much, him being out, and he looks more likely to be out than Sweat. That would be a big, big blow to the Titans as well. Roger McCreary, pretty good slot guy. Safeties are solid. Amari Hooker's good. Quandre Diggs is more than just good. So the defense has plenty of talent. And again, statistically, they've been great. Offensively, you got good weapons on offense too. You're just not seeing it enough. Tony Pollard is a big free agent signing. He's got 339 yards this season. Spears is a good RB2, but again, he's hurt as well, so he might not be playing. They got 3 really good receivers. On paper, you hear the names DeAndre Hopkins, Tyler Boyd, Calvin Ridley Jr. Like, holy shit, man, that's a lot of talent. But none of them are really doing anything this year. None of them even have 15 catches on the season. I'm sure some of you saw the clip. Calvin Ridley Jr. completely frustrated, got asked a question about targets, and then he, frankly, just flat out, he swore. He said, I want to get some fucking targets early in the game. It's what he said to the media, visibly frustrated. Not really good considering he's 5 games into a big, big contract. He got the bag with the Titans. Could have went to a lot of different teams. There was a lot of interest, and he took the money and he went to Tennessee. Early results, not good. But again, it's not because of talent per se. I think the big problem right now with Tennessee Titans this season has been their quarterback. Like, Will Levis has been awful. Like, you scratch your head at Josh Allen a handful of times, per season, even per month. You're like, oh, God, Josh, what are you doing? What are you thinking there? Guess what, folks? That's Will Levis right now, one or two times, like literally every single game. So turnovers that you just can't believe. He's got 5 touchdowns on the year and 7 interceptions. Most of them, like I said, horrifically ugly. He's got the second worst quarterback efficiency play in the league. Pretty much second from the bottom in the league in almost every major quarterbacking statistical category. Your boy should be real happy that Deshaun Watson's in his league. Otherwise, he'd be dead last in everything. He is dead last in EPA per dropback, by the way. So, again, good weapons on offense, an okay line. I mean, not world beaters, but decent line. Close games, too. Again, they're only 1-4, but 3 of their 4 losses have been one-score games. They did smack Miami, so they're at least formidable. I'll give them that. In terms of keys to the game for the Bills, to me, the first one might be the most important one and also the most obvious one is simply put for the Bills, key to the game here, don't sleepwalk through most of the first half. That is quite literally what they did to open up the season. That first Sunday 1 p.m. game against Arizona, they messed around. They didn't show up early, and they were down 17-3. You don't want to do that again. You don't want to give a team like Tennessee a lot of confidence. So come out, play well early, set the tone on defense, and get up. Let them know right away, you're the inferior team. We're better than you. It's Sunday. It's 1 p.m. Our crowd has been drunk for 5 hours. We're going to have our way. It's going to be a long, long day for you guys, and that bus ain't leaving until about 4:30 p.m. So set the tone early. Don't come into the game sleepwalking like you did the last time you were at home Sunday, 1 p.m. against an inferior team like they did with Arizona. Another thing, number 2, challenge the Titans' pass defense. I mean, again, they're good, but they're not like that good. For starters, Snead very well might not play. And I don't give a shit how bad his numbers look this year. He's still far and away their best defender in the secondary. So, and even beyond that, though, even if he were playing, again, they're good, but they're not that good. I mean, I already recited to you all those wonderful defensive stats. It's also worth noting that through 5 games, the quarterbacks that they've played against. I mean, they started out, Caleb Williams, playing his first game ever in the NFL, his rookie debut, so they've seen him. They had Aaron Rodgers early in the season. Aaron Rodgers is, look, he's a big name, but you saw it last Monday. He's not MVP Aaron Rodgers anymore, man. He's old. He makes some great throws still, but he does some dumb shit. He's banged up. He's slowed down. He's old. He's miserable. So not that big of a deal. Ty Huntley, that was a Miami quarterback, the game they won. They beat Ty Huntley. That's their 1 W this year against the Miami Dolphins, a Ty Huntley quarterback, Miami Dolphins. And Joe Flacco. I mean, I love Joe Flacco. That's who they face this year. Caleb Williams, Rodgers, Ty Huntley, Joe Flacco. And then the one game they got slapped around in was actually Green Bay, and it wasn't even by Jordan Love. It was backup Malik Willis. He just owned them. Willis was 13-19 for 202 yards that game. He also ran for 73 yards and a touchdown. Christian Watson, Jalen Reed, Emmanuel Wilson, they all had 30-yard catches in that game. So it's there. Josh Allen is obviously quite clearly better than any of those quarterbacks. So they haven't faced anything close. Forget about having faced anyone as good as Josh Allen. They haven't faced anyone close to him so far this season. So don't be afraid to throw the ball. Just because they have good stats against the pass, but who gives a shit? And then my last one is contain the run. If you're the Bills, you're the defense, you got to be a little more aggressive, maybe get those safeties up a little bit more, maybe run blitz a little bit more. You want to contain the Titans' run. You want to force Will Levis to be really good at quarterback to beat you. I think the biggest mistake opponents have made, including the Jets on Monday night against the Bills this year, is they're finding success running the football against the Bills, and then they're just, in some cases, inexplicably stopping or just not going to it. We saw it with Arizona. We saw it in Miami. We saw it a little bit with the Jets. I mean, Breece Hall looked like he could have had a $150 if they would have gave him the ball 25 times. So Stack the run if you got to, man. Don't let Tony Pollard don't let this be like a 130-yard rushing game for him. And again, the Bills' rush defense has not been good this year. They're just 22nd in rush defense EPA. So to recap there, man, just don't come out sleepwalking. Don't be one-dimensional and think you're going to have to run the football. You could beat the Titans through the air and contain the Tennessee Titans run. All right, a couple more things here that we're bouncing. Bold predictions. Got to toot my hat one more time. I'm to my own horn one more time this week. Last week's bold predictions, bam, 3 for 3, literally 3 for 3. I had the Bills-Jets game going over, but barely. It went over by literally 1 point. In fact, I had the final score 23-19 Buffalo. The Bills actually won that game 23-20. I also called a Matt Collins touchdown, which he scored. And I also called a Teron Johnson late interception. I said it too in the fourth quarter, and that's quite literally what he did in the last 5 minutes of the game. This week, what do I got here? I got 4. This first one might not sound bold to you, but I got to think it is. Ty Johnson's going to, every week I say someone's scoring a touchdown for the Bills, and it's usually a guy who you wouldn't expect to. I got Ty Johnson finding the end zone for the Bills in this game. And again, I think that's bold enough. James Cook is going to play. Not barring a setback. He's going to play. He's going to start. Ray Davis, if he's out there, he looked really impressive last week. He's going to get some carries. So I don't know how many opportunities Ty Johnson's going to get, but he's going to take advantage of one of those reps, and he's going to find the end zone. I feel it through the air too. So we'll even call that a bonus one. Ty Johnson scores a touchdown through the air. Dwayne Carter, although he's probably not going to start, my second one is Dwayne Carter is going to get his first NFL sack on Sunday. Sometimes when you do these bold predictions, there's not necessarily a rhyme or reason. You see it and you feel it in your bones. And I feel it in my bones. Dwayne Carter is going to get his first NFL sack. This is my lone negative one for the Bills, but it's been fun, real fun for 6 games. But I think Josh Allen's interception-free streak is going to come to an end. I think Josh Allen is going to throw his first pick of the season. By the way, if you happen to be watching this live, leave a comment here. I want to know what your bold prediction for this game is. Drop that on me. If you're listening to this the next day or watching this on YouTube the next day, leave it in the comments too. I'd like to see what you guys think. So that was 3. I said 4. So Ty Johnson's scoring a touchdown. Dwayne Carter's getting a sack. Josh Allen's going to throw his first pick. And this one isn't backed by any specific stat, but Greg Rizzo is finally going to have a big game. Week 1 in Buffalo, Sunday, 1 p.m., Greg Rizzo, AFC Defensive Player of the Week. I thought he was fine in Miami and fine against Jacksonville, but these last couple weeks, he's been, I don't want to say he's been shitty, but he's been very ordinary. Just another guy out there. And Greg Rizzo is more than that. Greg Rizzo needs to be more than that, especially when the Bills start playing some of these really good teams down the stretch and getting into the playoffs. Again, star players have to play like stars when they matter the most. Now, this is not a game that matters the most. This is just one of those 1 of 17 games, but we'll call it a get-right game for Groot. So Groot is going to have a big game. Those are my bold predictions there. Score prediction. That's how we always end this type of episode, these preview episodes. Look, at the end of the day, I think the Titans are game. Again, I think they're better than a lot of people think. If you just look at them and say, yeah, they're 1-4, I think you're selling them at least a little bit short. Like, they're better than the Carolina Panthers. They haven't given up like the Cleveland Browns essentially are now at this point, as they should, by the way. And how do you not bench Deshaun Watson? I don't want to get off track here. But anyway, they're a game football team, man. They are. I just think the Bills are better. Simple as that. Sometimes you don't have to overthink all these things. The Bills are a better football team. They're home. They've been sleeping in their bed all week, and they're going to get to sleep in their bed Saturday night. They're confident. But more important than any of that stuff, for me, is what I said earlier. The Bills are healthy. This is the healthiest the Bills have been since week 1. Literally. And even the little thing, like Josh Allen's left hand. And by the way, you could kind of tell last week that hand was pretty much fine. I mean, you could see them stiff arm a few guys, which I had not seen since he started wearing the tape over his hand. But anyway, that's big, man. Ed Oliver being back is big. Teron Johnson and Terrell Bernard not even just being back, but now having some reps under them. That shit's big. James Cook. Look, I love what Ray Davis did last week, but James Cook's still RB1. That's big. Khalil Shakir practicing at full and not even limited, to me, that's big. Amari Cooper, who has not played a snap for this team, and I barely even talked about him in this show, which, by the way, I barely talked about him because I do expect him to play, but I would say there's probably going to be a very small percentage of snaps he gets, maybe a handful of routes or assignments or things like that he'll pick up between now and Sunday. I kind of see him having a role like MVS kind of had, except I don't expect him to drop a third down pass if it hits him in his hands. But anyway, all these things are going for the Bills now instead of against them, with the injuries. So that's good. So they're confident, they're at home, they're healthy, and I think the Bills win this game 30-17. So a 2-score win, a 13-point win, Bills 30, Titans 17. Let me find a couple of these here before I get out here. I'm going to reach into these comments, see if there's any bold predictions that you guys said. Chooch says Curtis Samuel finds the end zone. Well, Curtis Samuel at least showed a little bit of promise last week. He showed the pulse last week, and I thought that was pretty big. John Sanders, 230 guaranteed is why they aren't benching him. All right, he was talking about, they were talking about, I don't even know what you're talking about there, John, to be honest with you, buddy. I think you're still talking about the Sabres. My bad. I don't want to talk about the Sabres anymore. Roy Collins said Tyler Bass kicks a field goal of over 50 yards, and he makes it. All right, John Sanders, I apologize. He wasn't talking about the Sabres. He was talking about Deshaun Watson. Another conversation for another time. It's a fair point. But at some point, if you're serious about trying to be good and you don't want your fans to literally hate you, you might have to eat that money. You might have to eat it. As terrible as that would be if you're the Browns fans or the Browns themselves, you got to eat that money, man. Play Jameis Winston. I don't know. Show your fans that you care. That's the way I feel about it. All right, I'm just trying to make sure. We're going through a couple of these comments before we get out of here. I didn't get a chance to during the show. Hillslayer 12 said Rodgers is washed. I think he's out of excuses. He's out of excuses. You get Devontae Adams. You got Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. Those are your weapons right now. That's like Andre Reed, James Lofton, Thurman Thomas type shit. What excuse you got at this point? Jets are a poorly run shit organization. They sure are. So a lot of these comments came in when we were talking about the Jets. Roy Collins says Epinesa still got credit for the sack despite the penalty. Yeah, he got 2 sacks that game. So did I say he didn't? I don't remember. But yeah, you're right. He got the sack and the penalty came after the play, so he was still credited with that. I want to play this one comment one more time by John. He said that's heaven to the Brown for Dustin Hopkins since they're taking. I'd like to look into that contract. Maybe not Dustin Hopkins, but I do think, especially if Tyler Bass misses another kick this week, I think you might see a scenario where Brandon Beane is very much on the trade market. Brandon McManus was a guy that I thought the Bills might look at this week, but he ended up signing with the Green Bay Packers. Joshua Richardson, what would your record prediction for the rest of the year be since they traded for Cooper? I'd have to go game by game. That's like a Howard Simon picks the Bills type thing. I could say this. I had them going, I think, 11-6 before the season started, and they're 4-2 right now after 6 games. I know they got that one ridiculous stretch where they got to play the Chiefs, then they play the 49ers, then they're at the Rams, which, again, no road game is ever easy in the NFL. So you got to go out to the West Coast to play the Rams, and then you're at Detroit. So you're talking Chiefs, Niners, and at Detroit in 3 teams like that in a 4-game stretch, although the Chiefs and the 49ers are home games. So that could be 2 losses right there. You lose a game that you didn't expect to lose to a shitty team. It happens to all these teams around the league. I still feel good about 11-6. maybe, I don't know, Amari Cooper moves the needle for me in terms of like a win or a loss. I do think he's going to make the offense better, but you can't just go by what his stats are going to look like. His presence out there, the attention he's going to demand is going to matter. It's going to make Khalil Shakir get less double teams. It's going to give him softer zones. It's going to give Dalton Kincaid more opportunities. Keon Coleman ain't going to be seeing no double teams. You're going to double team Keon Coleman and leave Amari Cooper one-on-one. I mean, what are we doing here if you're a defensive coordinator, right? By the way, Keon Coleman is starting to come on a little bit. Starting to get a little more confidence in him. I think he's going to become a nice player. Still a wide receiver 2, though. I don't know that he's a 1 per se, but he's going to be a solid 2, and there's nothing wrong with that. But anyway, I think that's going to be where you see the benefit of Amari Cooper more than anything, at least maybe for the next 3-4 weeks. It takes time to gel and get this chemistry. But once they get that down, Josh is going to have a real dog to be able to throw the ball to. It's going to matter down the stretch. So I think if Amari Cooper's moving the needle, dare say playoff time, that's where you might see the biggest impact. But anyway, to answer your question, you said a record prediction. For now, I'll stick at 11-6. How about that? Keon Coleman with a tidy Sunday. All right, that's a bold prediction from Hill Slayer. I don't know how bold is that though, Hill. I don't know if that's that bold. Anyway, all right, guys, that's gonna do it for the show, man. I do appreciate you guys. Oh, hold on. See, every time I'm about to leave, somebody's got to leave a comment, but this is actually a good one. Rasul Douglas pick 6. Woo, I like that. That is bold. And he's the kind of guy who could get a pick 6. He's the kind of guy who could get beat for 5 or 6 plays in a game, too. He's a risk taker. He's kind of reminds me a little bit of Diggs in Dallas, although Diggs in Dallas is overrated. I don't think that this Buffalo Bills version, Rasul Douglas, is overrated. Anyway, it's going to do it for this episode. God, it felt good to talk about the Bills, quite frankly, for the last 25 minutes, because that Sabres shit in the first 10, 15 minutes of the show really, really, really pissed me off. I just can't believe it's October 17th and this team feels done already. I know they're not done. I mean, they're 1-4-1. I get it. Technically, they're far from done, but you've seen this rodeo before. You know this song and dance. What's changed? The core of this team's just not good enough. It's not. It's not good enough. You know what? Are we doing this? Didn't I just say I was going to leave? But now I'm on another Sabres-Bills tangent because I just thought of something that I could tie both these teams together. And I'm kind of mad that I didn't do this at the very beginning of the show where I still would have had the max audience here. But here's how I feel where I could tie the Bills and the Sabres, intertwine them together. The Bills' problem, which just got solved, hopefully, with Amari Cooper, was the receivers. It's not that Khalil Shakir is a bad receiver or that Keon Coleman's a bad receiver, that Dalton Kincaid's not that he's a bad pass catcher. I think we would all agree the problem was Khalil Shakir's not a number 1. Keon Coleman's not a number 1. Dalton Kincaid shouldn't be your number 1 or even number 2 priority in the passing game. And I know some people might think that's bullshit because he was a first-round pick, but that's the reality. When you bring in Amari Cooper, those guys all get to slot down 1. And that doesn't seem like much, but it is. Matt Collins goes from being a guy who you needed to count on to a guy you really don't need to count on much anymore. Matt Collins can now go back to what he was supposed to be. And what he's supposed to be was what Trent Sherfield was supposed to be last year. The Bills are treating Matt Collins the last couple weeks like he was supposed to be Stephon Diggs or Gabe Davis. That's stupid. Matt Collins is supposed to be Trent Sherfield. You get Amari Cooper, that's what Matt Collins is now. Curtis Samuel, Jesus. He's so invisible for most of the season, I forget sometimes he's even on this roster. But anyway, you get my point. He'll be more of a gadgety guy now. You don't have to count on him as much. And I link that to the Sabres. Alex Tuck doesn't suck, but Alex Tuck shouldn't be on the first line. Dylan Cousins doesn't suck, but Dylan Cousins, I'm starting to wonder. I don't know that he's a top 6 forward. Like, he should be a third-line guy. Jack Quinn is a top 6 guy in the Sabres, at least in the lineup. Jack Quinn was in the press box because he was a healthy scratch. Just 6 games, 7 games into the season, whatever it is. The core is just not good enough. with the Buffalo Sabres. That's what it comes down to. Tage Thompson is, he's got his flaws, but he's a number one first line guy. He's legit. Rasmus Dahlin is playing like shit this year, by the way, but he's a legit all-star level defenseman. He's a star. That's about it. JJ Berturka is a really good player who's really starting to blossom. He might become a star. He's on his way to becoming a star. I really like what I saw from Yuri Kulik. He might become a good mainstay. But there's too many guys that this team has paid or will pay that they consider core players. Matthias Samuelsson, another one. They're not core players. They're not good enough. Like if you're a second line defenseman, you should be a third line defenseman. If you're a second line forward, you should be a third line forward. That's how I feel about the Sabres right now. It's how I felt about the Bills receiver room until they got Amari Cooper. So that's why I think Amari Cooper makes a real difference. And on that note, I am out this time. I do appreciate you guys very much. I'll be back on live Sunday, late night Sunday. I like these 10 p.m. live shows on Bills game days or game nights. But in this case, it'll be at 10 p.m. So go listen to all your other Bills content immediately after the game or so. Chill out for a while, get a nice dinner, relax. Come back 10 p.m. Sunday. Joe from Queens will be with me, and we'll go through the good, the bad, the ugly. Bills, Tennessee Titans. Hopefully, a Bills team that will be 5-2 come Sunday night. Talk to you guys then.